Hi, Anuj. Thank you so much for taking out time for this interview. For the viewers, may we request you to please share your journey, your story in your own words?
Hi Dikshita, thanks for hosting me. My journey for opting for an MBA and I think preparing for GMAT began in my penultimate year of study, that is under graduation. I personally did not want to start with my MBA immediately after college, as I was of the opinion that you should gather experiences, explore fields
Mm-hmm.
and finally narrow down on what you want to graduate in later on
Right.
before and then only do an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
However, I also felt that once I start working, I think preparing for a competitive exam would have been very difficult due to work commitments.
Right.
That is why I think GMAT appeared as a very lucrative option to me, as I could just give it when I had the time and the score is still valid for a few years
Mm-hmm.
and I could apply whenever I get the time.
Right.
Thus, I gave GMAT after completing my penultimate year college exams and I got the score I was looking.
All right. So, in your opinion, what are a few factors or actions you took that made all the difference?
I think I was a little short of time as I had to give GMAT within 2 months of beginning preparation. So I had to be very mindful of the resources that I used.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it a point to note down every single question that I answered incorrectly. And then before starting, I would revise and go through all of the mistakes that I had committed previously.
Okay.
The crux was to never make the same mistake again, and over time I could see that there are only a finite number of logic at work in GMAT.
All right.
So by maintaining an error log, I think I was able to tackle a lot of them.
Okay, that's a very nice way to go about it. So, with the benefit of hindsight, what are a few mistakes you believe you committed in the process?
Right. I think what I experienced during my journey was that my quantitative score was a little less than expected, which was honestly a surprise to me as I was acing the questions in the official resources of GMAT.
All right.
Talking to a few other candidates, I realized that the difficulty level of the official resources is a little on the lower side.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some additional resources are required to prepare for it,
All right.
and you should not take this lightly and go in for the additional resources. Secondly, I think developing reading as a habit early on really helps.
Okay.
As practice, I think may help you iron out issues in sections such as say sentence correction. I think there's only so much that practice can do in sections such as reading comprehension. So having good reading skills, I think, is a huge plus.
Right. Yeah, that is true. So, what were the main GMAT resources that you used for your preparation?
In terms of resources, I started with the original guide for preparation and three resources available on mba.com. Again, I would have preferred to use some more resources for my preparation. So I think one should definitely look for additional practice behind besides the official resources if time allows.
Right.
For mocks, I used Experts Global and I think I gave around 7 to 8 mocks within a span of say 15 days. I felt they were accurate as my score stabilized after a couple of mocks, and that is, I think, the score I eventually got in the exam as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So, according to you, what should be the frequency of mock tests and how many mock tests should an aspirant be taking?
I think mocks are a very important, way to gauge your performance, and I think rather than the frequency, one should be giving mocks at regular intervals and not just at the end of your preparations.
Okay.
Because I think when you get the ideal scores that you're looking for and when they're consistent, that is when you feel your exam ready.
Right.
So if your range of your mock scores is say off by 40 to 50, that is a big range. It should ideally be within a 20-point range every time. And deviation, as soon as the deviation from that starts getting smaller, I think that is when your exam ready. Could take up 5 mocks, 10 mocks, 15 mocks, but I don't think it'll cross 15 mocks to be honest. If it does, then I think it's time to revisit the study material.
Okay, okay. Yeah, fair enough. So, according to you, what are a few common mistakes that all the GMAT aspirants should avoid?
I think the number one mistake in terms of GMAT preparation would be, I think, giving equal weightage to each section. that is more like a double-edged sword, I think. So most people either are strong in quantitative or in verbal. So the first step is to identify which area you're lacking in and giving more time to it. Second, of course, would be not to get carried away with just one section again. You have to focus comprehensively on everything. And third is not being afraid to, I think, tap additional resources. If you think you're looking for say a consultant in guiding you in the application process, I think just go for it. Because and if you're looking for additional resources in terms of practice or mocks, I think it's worth spending that additional money and getting it done right than going with the half-baked effort.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, what would you like to say about your experience and learnings from managing the application timeline?
I think thinking ahead of time is very key in the application process, as one should realize that the schools that ask for GMAT scores take a very holistic look at your application and not just at the score.
Right.
And so your profile should be top notch, be it achievements, internships, positions of responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
work experiences, courses, and so on. So these things cannot be improved right at the time of application. So it's absolutely imperative that your profile is maintained even before you start the GMAT prep. And in terms of preparation, I would say the original guide is the utmost resource, but it's by no means is it exhaustive. So I would also recommend not giving the exam closer to the application deadline, so that you have room to retake it in case your score, isn't that well.
Right.
That is it.
Okay. Okay. So, would you like to describe your interview experience with the B school?
Right. The interview I was invited for was for Indian School of Business Young Leadership Program.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, the interview experience was quite pleasant, as is the case with most B schools. Alumni took my interview.
All right.
A good professional profile, I think, goes a long way in the interview, and the interviewers had a lot to discuss with me, which I think helped my case a lot.
Okay.
While the GMAT score may help you land the interview, I think your profile is what will really crack the case. So a good score with a good profile is, I think, very important in order to get hold of one B school.
All right. So, what tips would you give to all the MBA applicants?
Mm, My advice to all candidates will be to be very particular with respect to the courses and colleges they apply to firstly.
Right.
I know it's very overwhelming to see so many courses being offered, but it's definitely not a one size fits all approach. And don't hesitate in, consulting advisors for the same as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are a misfit for the batch, that will clearly reflect in the interview. So
Right.
it's better to narrow down and then apply for colleges that you think are an ideal fit for both of you. So the college should suit you as well.
Right.
And I think that is it. Yeah.
Okay. What would be your final message to all the viewers watching this video?
I think my final message is that in terms of GMAT, you always have a second chance since it's open year round. So I would recommend not taking too much pressure, and also not just focusing on the score and also focusing on the profile. So for that, I think GMAT is a lot more forgiving. So no need to take any pressure. And I think if it's meant to be, you will get your college, be it 1 year later, 2 years later, and that is it.
All right. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing all your suggestions with us. And we really look forward to knowing more about your success story in the near future.